Mona had known about the ceremony of clay for as long as she could remember. She had watched it from the edges of the town square as a child, sitting among other girls with dusty feet and restless hands. She had seen how the women stood afterward, heads lifted, shoulders straight, no longer spoken to as children and no longer overlooked. The blessing changed how the town saw them and slowly how they saw themselves. Now it was her turn. She woke before the sun, her heart already racing. The house was quiet, the air still cool, carrying the faint smell of damp earth. Her mother was awake, sitting on a low stool near the doorway, watching the morning gather itself. "Eat," her mother said softly, sliding a small bowl toward her. Mona forced herself to swallow, though her throat felt tight from nervousness and excitement. Outside, Zarama stared. Women moved between compounds, whispering, calling to one another. Somewhere, a baby cried, and somewhere else, a pestle struck a mortar in a steady rhythm. The town was waking, and with it, the weight of the day. Mona stepped outside and lifted the clay pot she had molded herself. It sat on the ground where it had dried for weeks, its surface smooth beneath her fingers. She remembered shaping it, pressing the clay carefully, turning it again and again, willing it to be strong. She had walked alone as custom demanded, no guiding hands and no corrections. She told herself this was enough. The walk to the river was familiar, yet it felt altered by attention. People paused in their walk to watch her pass. Some smiled encouragingly, others said nothing. Children followed at a distance, curious and quiet, as though they sensed this was not a game. The river lay just beyond the edge of the town, broad and patient, its surface catching the first light of morning. Other girls stood there too, some older, some younger, each holding a pot molded from their own hands. They nodded to one another, nervous solidarity passing between them. Mona took her place at the bank. She knelt carefully, feeling the damp ground press into her knees. The river was cool and steady, unbothered by her presence. She lowered the pot slowly, just as she had been taught. Her fingers tightened around the rim. The clay felt solid and reassuring. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe this would be easy. Then her foot slipped. It was a small movement, barely noticeable, but it was enough. The pot tilted, struck a stone hidden beneath the river, and cracked open with a sound that seemed impossibly loud. Mona froze. The two halves of the clay pot floated briefly before sinking, water rushing in where her hopes had been. She stared, unable to move, her chest hollowing out as the meaning of what had just happened settled over her. Behind her, someone gasped. Someone else laughed, quickly stifled, but not quickly enough. Mona stood and stepped away from the river without turning back. Her hands were empty now. They felt strange without the weight they had carried only moments before. The town square was already full by the time the successful girls returned. Their pots balanced carefully, water glinting inside. The older women waited beneath the shade of the large iroko tree, seated in a semicircle, their faces unreadable. One by one, they placed their hands on the girls' heads, murmuring prayers, marking the passage into womanhood. Mona watched from a distance, standing beside her mother. "It can happen," her mother said quietly, not looking at her. "Some girls stumbled the first time." Mona nodded, though shame burned behind her eyes. Around them, whispers rippled. Her name passed from mouth to mouth, altered slightly each time. Clumsy, unlucky, careless. That night, she lay awake, replaying the moment over and over, searching for where she had gone wrong. By morning, she had already begun molding another pot. The second attempt came weeks later. This time, Muna was more careful. She shaped the clay slowly, pressing out every imperfection. Her fingers ached, but she welcomed the pain. It meant she was paying attention. It meant she was trying harder than before. The town watched again when she carried the pot to the water. Fewer smiles this time, more quiet. She knelt, she lowered the pot, and the water filled it smoothly. Relief flooded her chest. Then, as she lifted it, her grip shifted, just slightly. The weight surprised her and the pot slipped from her hands, striking the riverbank with a dull final crack. The sound carried, and this time laughter followed openly. Mona straightened slowly, her face hot, her ears ringing. She wanted to disappear into the river, to sink with the broken clay and let the water close over her. She wiped her tears as she watched the other girls walking away with their full and steady water pots, with the crowd trailing behind them, leaving her to walk back alone. By the time she reached home, the town had already decided what her second failure meant. Sympathy thinned and advice turned sharp. You must focus. You cannot rush these things. A woman who cannot carry water cannot carry responsibility. Her mother said little. She only sighed more often, her eyes lingering on Muna with a mix of concern and disappointment she tried to hide. By the third attempt, the pressure had settled deep into Muna's bones. Everyone had an opinion now. Everyone watched her hands, her feet, her posture. The pot she had molded this time was perfect by any measure. Even those who doubted her admitted it. This one will hold, someone said. Muna clung to those words as she carried the pot to the river. The path felt longer than ever. The air felt heavier. She could feel her heartbeat in her palms. She lowered the pot, she filled it, and she lifted it. For several steps, nothing went wrong. Then someone brushed past her, a small bump, enough to throw her off balance. Her foot caught on a root she hadn't seen, and the pot struck her knee, then the ground. It shattered completely. The laughter came fast and loud, unrestrained now, and someone even clapped as if watching a performance. Women covered their mouths to stifle giggles. Children pointed, teasing. The crowd's amusement cut into Mona's chest like knives, and she froze for a moment, mortified. Her cheeks burned, her lips trembled. She could hear her mother sigh in disappointment behind her, but no one ran to save her. Mona did the only thing she could, begin the walk home with her head bowed from shame. By the time she reached a small house on the edge of the town, her knees felt weak. She closed the door behind her and let the tears she had been holding back flow freely. Each sob carried the sting of ridicule, the embarrassment of public failure, and the weight of expectations she hadn't been able to meet. Chima, her younger brother, peeked around the doorway. "Muna," he said quietly, "are you okay?" She shook her head, too choked up to speak. Chima stepped forward anyway, setting a small hand on hers. "They shouldn't laugh at you," he said softly. "You are the kindest person I know." Muna swallowed the lump in her throat. "Kindness doesn't stop clay from breaking," she whispered. She let her body slump against the wall, water dripping onto the floor. For the next few days, the laughter of the village followed her. The young women who had succeeded in the festival teased her openly, calling her clumsy, useless, and destined to remain unmarried. Muna avoided the market, avoided the girls and kept to herself, working quietly at home, stitching torn clothes and thinking about what she could do with her life. One evening, her mother came to sit beside her, her face lined with years of experience, her eyes warm and steady. "Mona," she said gently, "would you like to try again? I can help you make stronger clay, make more careful shapes. And next year you could go back to the festival and prove them wrong." But Mona shook her head. "No, Mama," she said firmly. "I don't want to carry water anymore. I don't want to compete. I have another plan." Her mother frowned slightly. "Another plan?" "I want to weave," Mona said, her eyes brightening despite the tears. "I want to make cloth. I want to sell it and create something that people will remember me for, not laugh at me for." Mama EJ studied her daughter for a long moment, then smiled. "Very well. If this is your decision, then I will support you." Mona cleared a small space in the corner of their home. She pulled out the loom her grandmother had left her and began to weave. She dyed threads with natural colors and wove them into patterns that told stories of life, her dreams, and the kingdom around her. The first cloths were uneven, lumpy and imperfect, but she worked patiently, letting each mistake teach her, shaping every thread with care. Within a few months, she had enough pieces to display. She set up a small stall in the market, and the cloth shimmered in the morning light. And though she was nervous, she felt a strange thrill as people stopped to examine her work. Some admired her skill, others whispered about the clumsy girl who had broken her pot 3 times. But Mona held her head high.